Kaiser concluded the Blue Lock Neo Egoist League with a bid of 400 million, once again highlighting the gap between a new Gen 11 striker and those at the peak of Blue Lock. For example, Isagi and Rin both got 240 million, and Rin and Kaiser got an offer from the same club, with such a huge gap between them. On top of that, the other newly introduced new Gen 11 member, Don Lorenzo, got 280 million respectively as well, also higher than the peak of Blue Lock currently. Therefore, it's time for our boys to go through their next stage of evolution to truly get on this tier. The next arc, the Under 20 World Cup, officially begins in 50 days within the Blue Lock story. Absolute hype. On top of that, we got to see Nagi again after he was officially eliminated, and Isagi's endless growing ego. Welcome to Blue Lock chapter 301. The full translations are out, so make sure to listen closely throughout today's video. So right at the start, we get to see some of the masters once again, and an aspect I wanted to conclude the Neo Egoist League with was some input from all of them, or at least some of them, such as Noel Noah, but it seems as though we're not getting anything like that, as the focus of the latest chapter is on Kaiser, with Noel Noah looking at Ness and Kaiser, who, as we know, due to what Isagi did, are going through it right now, but based on their entire conversation and the ego wielded by Ness this time, it seems as though their return and rise within the future of the Blue Lock story will indeed be occurring. With a quick reminder of all the fodder characters who were part of the Neo Egoist League, who just outright weren't really anything outside of those part of the Blue Lock experiment. Of course, Kaiser and Lorenzo, the two new Gen 11 players, Ness, the main support for Kaiser, and then Charles, who a lot of people wanted to be a new Gen 11 player, but of course, due to his age 15 and demonstrated bid of 110 million, he's not really on that level, but of course his potential is up there, maybe even top 3, based on the little but insane showings he had, and of course the amount Loki is actually investing in him when it comes to the future. But moving on to the next arc and the impact of the Neo Egoist League, that gets highlighted right away due to all the matches being broadcasted and the surviving players pretty much being insanely famous due to this now. Isagi is now realizing that this is indeed what sport is about. This is what can come from sport, bringing us to the most important factor to highlight how far Isagi will go, and the main difference between him and someone like Nagi. He says, "I won't get satisfied until the moment I become the best in the world. I will go beyond this scenery. I won't go back to the world without football." What Nagi is currently doing and dealing with. Isagi wants to be without a doubt the best striker in the entire world. That's why his ego is at the top. That's why he'll never be satisfied like Nagi seemingly had gotten. But of course, everyone has mentioned it. The ego within his eye was still demonstrated there, and the focus on Nagi for the conclusion of this chapter does imply to me that of course he will be returning at some point. He says he's home, but the mention of 50 days left to the Under 20 World Cup does beg the question of whether we're going to actually focus on Nagi quite a bit since his elimination. Something we haven't really got before for other characters for obvious reasons. They aren't as important or popular as Nagi, with Isagi and many others of course thinking about him even after his official elimination, something I'm imagining will continue to occur once the next arc officially begins. But of course, the thing most of us want to see as we get into the start of the Under 20 World Cup is the introduction of all the other new Gen 11 players, potentially another striker that may have some connection to Itoshi Sai in his past. Of course, a legendary new Gen 11 goalie that I personally want that will shake up the entire story potentially. And maybe even the role of the Masters moving into this arc. Of course, they won't be playing to any degree, but maybe a coaching or commentating position could be pretty interesting as well, or some last minute training when it comes to the 50 days before the World Cup actually begins. Can't wait to see and learn about all of this.